Welcome back. You're still watching Nile Cruise. A number of political figures announced the forming of a new political alliance under the name of the Conscience Front. The front includes members of the Constituent Assembly and other prominent political figures. The founding members of the Conscience Front established that they are a coalition to protect Egypt from the bloodshed and defending the country against a power struggle that threatens its survival. All this and more we'll be talking about with Dr. Mohamed Sharaf, a university professor and a member of the Conscience Front. Hello, Doctor.
My pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Hello, Dr. Sharaf. My first question to you is that this particular front is a brand new one. So how did the idea spark to the whole members, and what are your objectives after all?
What really happened, there were people talking in our name, in the name of everyone, or thought they are entitled to talk in everyone as opposition. That's not really the case. It's not true. So,
and you're pointing to the National Salvation Front.
And
yes.
others, and others, yes. Yes, if you're asking me directly, yes. However, the National Salvation Fronts mostly are my old friends, you know, in the streets of Cairo. But
Yes.
It's hard to be against your old friends.
Yes.
But in any case, what really happened? The scene was bloodshed under the calls for what they call a million gathering. There were violence. There were how do I say it? It's a coup against the democratic values and principles that we should start espousing for the future.
Yes.
We might have a hard start. We might have a hard start, but you have to really, you know, to follow it, pursue it, and improve as you go on.
Yes.
If there is a dialogue, a political dialogue, what the Salvation Front, to be specific, is calling for, it's not popular demands. It represents their demands. So if it is a political demand by a group or a faction, it should be discussed under the dome of the parliament. This is a political difference. It's not a political, it's not a popular demand by every Egyptian.
So how can we define the popular demand by Egyptians?
The popular demand by Egyptians now is to improve their living. That's the most popular, is to stop the bloodshed. That's a popular. I sign for it wherever it is, with the Salvation Front or with the Conscious Front. Wherever it is, that's my signature. Every Egyptian is looking for improvement, to see improvement in his life. He doesn't care for that struggle. The Molotov struggle is just a part of Egypt. It's not everywhere in Egypt. It's 1 square kilometer in Tahrir Square, half a square kilometer at Ittihadiyya, half a square kilometer in Sidi Gabir and Qaid Ibrahim.
But Doctor, that's a very good point, because you've mentioned that Egyptians want an improvement in their livings after, of course, the revolution and with the democratic process and everything. So now we can't change our president, Mohamed Morsi, unless 3 or 4 years have passed.
He came by
so we changed the cabinet. So
yes.
I guess that
he came by a popular vote.
Yes.
So if President Morsi came by a popular vote, and when I voted, or when you voted last June, we voted for a president for 4 years. So that's how I see it. It's a coup against democratic principles.
Exactly, but what about changing? But what about changing the prime minister?
Oh, that's the
because that's
the governing.
Yes.
You know. But now with the new constitution, the prime minister is empowered more than the president is empowered in the constitution. So if you're really asking for your demands to apply it, go and vie for the coming elections. You're very right.
Which
that's
elections? But the elections cannot
democracy.
change the prime minister. They can only change the president.
I think their demands, to be quite honest, their demands keeps changing. Okay, it's really hiding something behind. What's it's hiding behind, to be honest, is to change the constitution that the Egyptian people went to referendum and accepted it. And is to have new elections, thinking that those who lost would win in the new elections. That's really, outrageous. And it wouldn't work.
Yes.
Right, Dr. Sharaf, from where I can understand, one of the main objectives of the Conscience Front is to stop the bloodshed, a complete halt to the bloodshed in the streets. But when we go and negotiate with the people and the youth who are demonstrating in the streets, the answer is that we are not represented by the National Salvation Front. They're against it. They're against everyone sitting inside an office, and they are representing the demands of the revolution. The other thing is that they said that president who came into office came with a very, very narrow margin, almost very close to quarter of the Egyptians, the population who elected him. Some of them were forced to elect him because they wanted another choice, but they had to choose between him and the former regime. So they didn't see any change in the situation, in the scene, and even when you ask them about the National Salvation Front, they answer you that it does not represent them. So doesn't it look like the administration or the presidential office have to listen or yield to the demands of the street rather than...
Of course, but as I say, all these dialogues are under the dome of the parliament. Violence is a red line. All these talks are mainly, to give alibi, to give a pretext, to give a room for violence. And that's not accepted. All the violence occurs. Let us go back, over the past 2 or 3 months. Whenever they call for a million gathering, it ends in violence. While just a few meters from here last week, the Islamists had their gathering. In numbers, it's bigger, no doubt. But there were no Molotov, no stones, no building burned, no girls.
But a lot of people actually
molested,
claim...
that's how I say it, Women were abdicated, abducted in the Tahrir Square. We had sexual harassment of all sorts. We have gang rapes in the Tahrir Square.
But how do you justify whenever there are Islamists in any demonstration, the thugs disappear, there is nobody's dispersed, no sexual harassment,
Yes.
No Molotov, everything goes cool. Whenever there are liberals and they're demonstrating, and those who are the very same people
I'm
who
a
are
liberal,
demonstrating...
first of all, I'm a liberal,
I
but
mean,
I don't
the
belong
very
to
same
these
faces who were in the 18 days in Tahrir Square,
Sure.
they are the same people now in Tahrir Square, but then you can find
No,
that
they are not the same.
they are not the same.
They are not the same. That's not the people who were there in first of the revolution. If those people are present, nothing of this would happen. We were all together, whether Islamist, liberal, secular, there were no differences.
That's true.
Veiled, unveiled, whoever, Tahrir Square is for everyone, but now it is entitled for a certain few people, and this is really unfair. And we are holding security apparatus in this country. Be loyal to the country. It doesn't matter who is residing in Tahrir, but it's Egypt. It's the future of Egypt. We are really blowing our chances for the coming generation if it goes this way. And really, people will hold you accountable. Whoever he is will be held accountable one day.
Right, Dr. Sharaf, your gathering or your front looks like it's a very well-reputed gathering because it encircles very well-reputed and prominent figures like yourself, and also the former presidential candidate and thinker, Dr. Salim Al-Awa, the Brotherhood leaders like Dr. Al-Biltagi, and also Hilmi Gazzar, and prominent leaders from Al-Wasat Party and other political figures.
Al-Wasat Party, Civilization Party,
Lots of them, yes.
Al-Ghad Party, Dr. Ayman Noor.
Dr. Ayman Noor.
So it's really a gathering. It's what I used for during Kifaya days.
Right.
During Kifaya days.
You're also a former Kifaya member.
Yes.
Yeah, but my question to you is, from where we understand now, is one of your main first priority and demand in this front is the stopping or halting the bloodshed. But when you analyze the situation or the scene in Egypt, when you listen to the layman in the street, you find different scenarios, like that time prior to the January 25th revolution, like martyrs having the same scenario like Khalid Said, like Mohamed and faking the forensic reports. And you have this sweet potato guy, 13 years old, the kid who was killed. You find Omar Salah, and you also find the brutal crackdown by and the excessive use of force, like Hamada, who was stripped naked. You find demands that are calling for the same demands, the January 25th revolution, but on the other front or on the other part, no response.
No, let us go.
Has anybody studied those things?
These are not pretexts for a revolution. A revolution means people. The January 25th revolution had the mandate of the people when 20 millions went to the streets. It wasn't a complete revolution, to be honest, but to say the word revolution, it applies only when people went to the streets, when 20 to 25 millions went on the streets one day.
But the most successful and graceful
But what's happening now, it's affection.
Numbers.
It's affection represent. I understand the frustrations of the youth. This is really understandable. But I really don't understand the slide to violence that we see. The slide to violence will hurt their chances in the future for better living, for better economy. To have better economy, to improve in the economy, to improve in the situation, it really requires sometimes. It requires, first of all, political stability. As an investor, I wouldn't invest under these current circumstances. As a tourist, would I come to Egypt when I see Semiramis being burned by what you call the revolutionaries? When I'm an Egyptian citizen, would I agree with that revolution when I see 3 schools burned completely and the kids are hurt? In the square of the revolution, when I see 25 gang rapes, that's not the square of the revolutions. Do you subscribe to these calls? I don't subscribe to them.
But how can you invest as a foreign investment when you see kids dying in a bus school and the next month there is another and nobody's investigating? There is no improvement.
These events, these train events
when
occur
there is a
everywhere.
constitution that is written by only one political faction, how can you invest when you see the minorities are not even achieving one bit slight chance of achieving their rights?
Sure. If you say one political faction, it comes by a democratic process. They came by elections. So everywhere in the world, Holland and France came by 15.2 or 50.2 or 50.5 percentage of the vote. That's democracy, you know. But once the democratic process ends in a president, everyone goes back to where he doesn't call and he doesn't say that Holland won by 15.5. Obama 51 or 52, and in the previous election it was really too narrow and too close. So that's the democratic process. What's happening in Egypt?
Examples in Germany, Hitler also came with a majority in the ballot box.
But
I mean, there are
that's
good
a different case. It doesn't apply here. It doesn't apply here. Landslide victories doesn't occur in the past decades. It's really tight. And this is more democratic. We want a strong opposition. So those 50% who voted against, they should form a strong coalition, strong opposition. That's better for the development of democracy in Egypt. It shouldn't be one faction, I agree. It should be a tug of war where we reach the point of balance, where we reach balanced decisions, where I oppose, where I correct the path. But the way the Egyptian, to be a strong opposition...
Doctor, because we're running out of time, and My last question would be
But
actually
would
one
you
of
allow me
Dina's.
to answer Hamada, the case of the guy who was stripped
Sure,
naked?
of course.
Yes.
Nobody
Or-
stripped him naked. He stripped himself naked,
Did
and the
strip
cameras
himself.
were there and ready to
Because
take
the
the
Prime
scene.
Minister said he didn't pay the gas
They
bills?
made
or
they made a mistake.
electric bills?
I believe.
So what
that
about the other incidents, such as the train incident in Asyut and the things?
What?
Doctor,
It
you
could
said that
happen.
these things happen everywhere.
Everywhere.
But these were the same things that were actually thrown upon President Mohamed Hosni Mubarak, the former president, that he was responsible for his reign. And these
let
things
me-
happened to Dr. Mohamed Morsi. Would he actually be held accountable?
Sure. He has the political responsibility for sure. But President Morsi cannot sit, at a rail crossing. And how many rail crossings would he
Just like
have
President
to go?
Mubarak.
But it's, as I say, it's political responsibility.
Yes.
What should be done?
Yes.
We should plan for the future. We should plan to stop this incident. But the people in Asyut, their reaction were really noble. They didn't go with the media.
Yes.
The media wanted to incite them and flare up things.
Yes.
They refused. They kicked up the media from Asyut and everywhere where you go in Upper Egypt.
And it should
But
have been the same case.
they were positive. How were they positive? They started building another school in the name of those 60 flowers that we lost. God bless their souls.
God bless them.
So that's the issue. We have to be positive. We have to build. What happens in the trains and the railways? 80% of the carriages and the locomotives are outdated. So you expect more. We have to go and build the infrastructure. We have to have a plan. The parliament is coming. The parliament is responsible for monitoring
Yes.
the performance of the cabinet and the presidency. What we really have, the problem we had, is the dissolution of the parliament. So we had all that empty legislative and political
Right, yeah, and that's
vacuum.
the one problem that you're pointing out. Dr. Mohamed Sharaf, the university professor and a member of the Conscience Front. Thank you very much for being with us today
you.
on Nile Cruise.
We need more time,
Thank you.
unfortunately.
Yes, of
Definitely.
Thank you.
More events will unleash and then we'll have more time to
Assured.
talk again. Thank you
Thank
for coming.
you.
Now it's time to go out for a quick break and we'll be right back again with you.